Hey, everybody, I'm Roy Harmon, and this is the Hot Pursuit podcast brought to you by LeadPost, the retargeting platform built to help agencies increase revenue and improve ROI for their clients by identifying website visitors that don't convert. Learn more at leadpost.com. Today, we are joined by Tim Cakir, the CEO of Task Drive, who enables businesses to delegate of their repetitive tasks to highly skilled virtual assistants who are also empowered with the latest tools and knowledge on how to use artificial intelligence. And what he's here to talk to us about today is something that is very important because personalization is huge these days, and a lot of people are using artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever, and they're thinking, okay, this is how I'm going to do personalization. But if you don't get it right, you're sending out stuff and it's not doing what you want it to do. It's having the opposite effect. So Tim is here to talk to us about how to get that right. Thank you for being here, Tim.
Thank you so much for having me, Roy. It's an absolute pleasure.
So can you tell us just a little bit of an overview about how generative AI can be used to basically implement better personalization in our marketing campaigns?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I can take examples from what we do, of course, at Task Drive. So we do this sometimes on a manual level, but we can also do it on an automated level. And generative AI plays a role on both manual and automated. So when we do it on a manual level, of course, things like ChatGPT, where the user has to enter stuff, works really well. So they can ask even about the user that they're sending an email to, if it's not a mass marketing campaign, of course. They can get some information, or I call them facts. Like I can say, give me 5 facts about X that works at X company, and then you get these facts, and then you can personalize your message. That's on a manual level, more on a salesy level, I think. But on a marketing level, what we're able to do today is connect our database into tools like Clay. Clay is an incredible tool out there. There's many of these, by the way. I'm just coming up with the one that we use, and automatically enrich our database. And you can enrich it every week, even if you want, and checking their latest LinkedIn post, checking their latest tweet, anything that can be found online. It can do a search about the person as well. So you could even search and find out that you made a post on Instagram even, and that you were loving coffee, or you have a coffee blog on the side, or anything like that. And or you were in a webinar, you were on a podcast like myself today. And when you get this information, you're able to then feed back this information into your, let's say, MailChimp or whatever you're using for your marketing campaigns, and automatically personalize the first line or even a bit more of it. But to be honest, people are quite happy when you personalize the first couple lines, because then it's about them, right? So then I can say, hey, Roy, I saw that you were on this webinar the other day, and here's our marketing campaign, right? And because you see that, you're like, oh, they knew that I was on a podcast, on a webinar. I love coffee. You get so much more interactive. Like, you want to answer that email, right? And you want to check that email out, even if it's a generic marketing campaign. Suddenly, it's to you, and you feel special. And this can be done really with many, many tools. And you can go from, of course, one-to-one conversation, as I was mentioning, with just ChatGPT, the easiest way, or you can start automating with different tools and go for more mass marketing campaigns.
What is the key, or what are the keys to getting to that level of personalization? Because the things you're mentioning, knowing that somebody likes coffee, knowing that they were just on a webinar, those are things to me where if somebody tells me that, I'm like, oh, this is somebody who actually knows something about me. This is like a real thing that I actually care about. Whereas a lot of the times I get marketing emails, or I've, hired outbound marketing type services where they say they personalize something, and I look at it and they're telling me, I see that you're skilled in digital marketing based on my LinkedIn skills, or I see we're both connected to so-and-so, where I don't even know who they're talking about because I just tell everybody okay, because my mom didn't hug me enough as a kid, and I need the validation of LinkedIn connections. So how do you get to that kind of more meaningful type of fact? Is that through the training, or what's the key there?
Yeah, I think it's more about what's available online anyways, right? So that personalization that you mentioned, it's like the level 1, not even level 0.1, where they see, oh, we have two connections on LinkedIn, so let me personalize it like that. So that's really the beginning of it. But when you go to make a search online about Roy and making sure that Roy from Lead Post, and you do a proper search, and then we can find that you're into music as well, right? And we can find that automatically, and I can find that you're into music, and that hopefully one day you want to start a music podcast with me, right? If I can find that information, if it's online, I find that information, and if I find that information, then of course you're going to feel so much better than, hey, I saw that we're connected to so and so, or I love your work at blah blah blah, right? Because like I get a lot of emails like that, but that's more on a sales side. So on a marketing campaign, if you're included in somebody's database, usually we ask some questions on the form, but we never ask if you like, do you like coffee, what's your hobbies, things like that. But we can find this information online, because sadly, and also good, but we do have a lot of information on a lot of our data online. And to be honest, people get scared a little bit of like privacy stuff and all that data rules and stuff, but anything that is online is actually usable, right? Because if it's online, that means that it's already public data, so you can use that data. So even with Lead Post, I'm sure that we could find ways to be able to include some of this personalized data into your platform, so that when people are doing retargeting campaigns and so on, they can even use that. And I've seen even people changing banners, changing graphics on saying, hey, Tim, I know that you said about coffee the other day. Would you like a call with me? And you're like, oh, how do you know? So there are some really interesting marketing campaigns out there that I have seen. I think one of them was when I was going to SaaStock in Dublin last year. And a week before or so on, every time I came to, I think I was being retargeted because I went to the SaaStock site, but they knew who I was and so on. They even had a picture of me. And I was like, they have a picture of me. And they're saying, hey, would you like to meet for coffee when you're in Dublin? I was like, oh, how do you know I'm in Dublin? Right? Because they knew that I went to the website of SaaStock and so on, and they could get my image from LinkedIn and so on, and they personalized it that way. And they knew that I was the CEO of TaskDrive. They knew a bit more. And I was like, oh, wow, amazing. I think they even had a line saying, was it, we know that you DJ on the weekends and we love DJs or something. How do you know all of that? When I was at SaaStock, I went to that booth of these guys and I was like, let's chat. I love what you do. So there are a lot of ways, and it's not very difficult. It's just really taking almost like a whiteboard and mapping it out. Where do you want to find the information? How are you going to find it? What tools are there out there that you can find this information from, and then continue into that workflow.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about, because a lot of people, of course, are used to ChatGPT, Bard, Gemini, whatever. They're used to using it kind of still in that constrained environment where it's not able to get out onto the internet, or maybe you have to use like a GPT or something like that. But of course, most people are aware that now there's a lot more capability to get outside of that little closed box. Can you talk a little bit more about how you wire that up? So if you are, you're putting together a marketing campaign, maybe even you have like a real world example where that would help kind of understand how it all fits together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we forget that ChatGPT is actually just the front end for a mature usage, I'm going to say, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to get upset at me. And I actually use mostly ChatGPT as well, because it's a great assistant. And it's, if you go for the plus package, it's $20. It's not that expensive. The free package, you can't access the internet, but on the paid package, you can actually access the internet from just the chat. But the amazing thing about OpenAI, which is the company who has created ChatGPT, is the technology behind ChatGPT. Is the model, the LLM, the large learning model behind ChatGPT, which is GPT-4 at the moment. We're going to have GPT-5 or GPT-4.5 very soon, and it's going to blow all of our minds, and we're going to be like, oh my God, what's happening in the world? But the thing is that OpenAI has a platform. So when you sign up for ChatGPT, you sign up to OpenAI. You can go on openai.com. You can log into their actual platform. In their actual platform, they have something called the playground, where you can actually play with all these models, with these different models in much more advanced level. right? And you don't need to know coding, by the way. People get scared. They're like, oh, I'm not a developer. No, with a little bit of curiosity, you can actually get the whole grasp of it. And you can tap into these things that the APIs, as we call them, right? The APIs inside OpenAI platform. And you can build assistants. The assistants are the actual GPTs, the custom GPTs we built on ChatGPT, but you can access them through an API. So you could integrate, hopefully lead post or anything like that, right? And you can integrate all these tools to be able to tap into the API so that that information goes into that API, into that assistant that you've built, does the magic, has the instructions like the prompt and so on, and then it can bring back an output. So the day that you can do that, when you set this up, by the way, it's really not that difficult. I know when I explain it, it can be a little bit more difficult, but you can learn this through YouTube, or you can even ask ChatGPT to teach you this, and it'll teach you. People forget that ChatGPT can teach you how to use ChatGPT. ChatGPT can teach you how to use OpenAI. Actually, it helps you use itself in a nice way. Don't abuse it. And in that way, you're able to use automation platforms like Zapier, Make.com. There's many automation platforms out there where you can draw a whole journey. You can say, person came to our website, lead post identified the person, then push that into this assistant API, do a search about this person, find all these facts, bring that back, then go to another assistant API, personalize a message, then go to another assistant API, make sure the message is good, relevant, and not fluffy or cut the fluff, and then go to another assistant API, do something else if you want, right? And then actually push back the message into your marketing automation platform. And that's quite, it sounds quite complex, but that happens in seconds, right? You go bam, 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 and then the information can come out. So if you do have a marketing automation platform, and when people visit your site, you've identified them, and then you can actually send them even an email, because you can find that information as well, right? Or you can show them a message inside your website, or if they sign up to your platform, you can welcome them with such personalization that they're like, oh my god, they know everything about me. It can be a bit freaky and scary, so you gotta be careful where you go. Don't tell their favorite underwear color or something like that. Just be careful where you go, because people can be like, oh, this is too scary, I don't want to deal with you. But when you find also a common ground, especially if your platform has something to do about coffee or whatever, right? Your website, and then that they like that, or they posted about it and stuff, you can really personalize that message and give them a warm welcome. And that warm welcome goes a long way, because I think in customer engagement, what we want is that it starts from that first second that we meet somehow digitally, and if we can achieve a great connection from there, things are much smoother.
Sounds like the first step then is understanding how to create a GPT or one of these assistants. And am I right that when you're talking about that, are you talking about that kind of the interface that I've used when I've experimented with that? It's actually pretty easy to understand. Mm-hmm. Is that the same one, or is there a more complicated version that you need to really get deep?
So there is the more advanced version. I'm not going to say complicated, because I don't think it's complicated. It's not as good looking as a ChatGPT, but it's a bit more advanced. But the GPT, the one that you're used to, when you build instructions and stuff like that, there you can test it there, and then when that works, you can just copy and paste the instructions. You can do the same thing on the OpenAI platform, on the Assistant API. A lot of people use the GPT to be testing things and so on, because it's much easier. And then they take it to the advanced level. When you want to automate things, you can take it to the OpenAI platform. But also, something that I don't even use, but I know a lot of people started to use around me, it's the actions inside GPTs. Inside GPTs, underneath the instructions and documents on the left bottom, you have something called actions. And those actions actually is also being able to tap into an API. It's an OpenAI schema, they call it. It's a special schema that it's not code, but it's kind of like a schema, right? How you're gonna create this little text so that it can connect to different APIs. And then if you don't know that, this is what I love, they came up with another GPT that can actually help you achieve that. So there is, here, do it with the Actions GPT. You click on it and you say it. You say, hey, I want to connect this GPT into my Instagram, or I want to connect this to the weather reports every day. and it tells you, oh, here you go, this is how you can do that, and then it gives you the whole code. You put it, you choose a service that would give you an API feed of the weather report, and you can connect it yourself. So you don't even have to go on the OpenAI platform. You can do it on the GPT, but I think that the scalability of the platform is much greater.
Yeah, so that is something, as far as just using APIs with ChatGPT, I've experimented some with that, and it's crazy what it can do. There's I think maybe it's Data Muse, or somebody has this great, like it's a rhyming dictionary and a thesaurus, all these things, and it's a free API. And I just, the actual, the documentation is pretty short. So even back when you couldn't put a lot of information into ChatGPT, I was like, use this API and write a script that I can put into Google Sheets, that whenever I put a word in here, it's going to find all these words that rhyme with it, all these related words, and basically it would just give me a worksheet that I could use when I was writing lyrics. And so that's just one example of how somebody who doesn't know anything about any of that stuff was able to get something going. I maybe ran into some errors, but I know that when I have run into errors in the past, I'm just like, hey, it did this instead of that. And it's like, oh, sorry, try this. And it'll fix it. So
copy and paste the error message and say, what is this error?
Yeah. So you get on to, you figure out the GPT, how to create a GPT. And I think you mentioned this, but something that maybe people might just need to remember. So to do that, you just, instead of logging into ChatGPT, you just log into your OpenAI account, which you have if you have ChatGPT. And then there's a whole different dashboard with the playground, like you mentioned, and the ability to create GPTs. More people are probably familiar with it now than they used to be, now that you can go in there and create your own GPT.
So the differentiation, Roy, there I'm going to do there, inside the ChatGPT platform, they're called GPTs. You can build custom GPTs. Inside the OpenAI platform, they're called assistants.
Got it. So you're going to go in there to create an assistant or multiple assistants.
Yep.
And then the next step, obviously it's more complicated than, or let's just say there are more things you have to do than just this, but the main things that you have to do is you have to have your assistants that are going to say what you want to do with the information. And then you need to have your sources of data, which you'll access through APIs. And that's how you're going to pull in that information. So LinkedIn, or I guess probably it's easier to go through something like Clay, where they've built out this functionality to where you can pull in information. If I'm right about that, if I'm not right about that, correct me, but if I am right about that, tell me some of the kinds of APIs that you've found to be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that LinkedIn is much more of a closed box. So a lot of these tools like Clay and stuff, they do what we call scraping, right? So they'll scrape the whole data of LinkedIn and feed you that data somehow, because they don't offer you, LinkedIn never wants to offer you an access to their platform, to their database. But a lot of companies do that by scraping it, because if it's online, you're legally allowed to scrape it or to access it offline, we call it actually. So the different APIs is, you really have to think about what you're trying to achieve. But some of the great stuff is actually, tapping into Clay, which Clay will tap into 100+ integrations on even finding your location, finding your office address and stuff like that, or how many employees you have and so on. But also some different APIs that could be actually, if you don't have an integration with your CRM, if you don't have an integration with your marketing automation platform. So you can push the data, but of course with APIs, you can also pull data. So you just have to imagine what we're trying to achieve. If you're trying to achieve something where you want to pull some information from Reddit or anywhere there, you do have that option. And then if you want to push information into an automation platform or a CRM, so they're very the pull and push thing about APIs, which I'm techie, but not that techie. I used to be much more techie. I'm not these days, because these days what I love about everything that we're talking about is you can actually do this with natural language. By just writing stuff and saying it what to do, you can achieve things. And this is just, I think it's a game changer for the last year, and it's going to continue, because natural language is becoming the development language.
And what about, so if I wanted to can I create create an assistant that, or multiple if that was necessary, that would understand my different buyer personas, and where I could say this is the firmographic data of these different personas. These are the different, if somebody's just going to be a user, then I want you to talk to them this way and focus on these things. If they're going to be a decision maker, I want you to focus on it this way. If it's a CFO or something like that. And then could you connect to something like Clay and then basically use that to really be hyper personalized in terms of your really focusing on different segments? Obviously, there's the additional things where you're actually talking about some personal information, but even for people who are worried about doing that, it sounds like this would be a great way to have very personalized messaging based on job title and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think again, I mean, the job title, the company you work at, how long you work there, how many employees do they have, what industry they're in. This is for us is really level 0.1, I call it, and we can go much beyond that, where it could be very, very scary. But you got to find the limit of not scaring your leads or your customers and so on, but also making sure you personalize it. So a job title and so on is great at that, but also it's great at, I know your job title, I know what you're interested in. So maybe I don't deliver you the content that you're not going to be interested in, and I deliver you the only content that you're going to be interested in. So that's also a really fun way to personalize, not the message itself, but the content, right? Not to deliver to Roy anything about drama and theater, because Roy loves music, so I'm just going to give him music stuff. Let's say that you had a news outlet or something like that. So you can actually really personalize the output of the content you're sending to a person.
Or for like a clothing retailer, don't send a back to school special to somebody who doesn't have any kids. I don't know if that's accessible through Clay. Is Clay mainly B2B data?
Yes, I think, I think, anyways, I think most of what I'm saying, it should be kept on a B2B level, because when you go on personal emails and you're starting to do that, that's the red line, right? And this is where we're not supposed to spam personal emails and so on. But if you're spamming, I'm going to say, a B2B email, but your solution, your service, your product is relevant, then actually it's not spam.
Right. Well, and I mean, for people in the US, you're pretty open to do anything with that first email, as long as you follow the rules and let them opt out. You're pretty good to go. Now, of course, people are a lot more concerned about how you know things about them, but I could even see this being useful to somebody who just was using their own first party data, and maybe you enrich the data, and maybe you're not calling out specific things even, but you're just saying, hey, look, that we're going to use this to decide what content goes where, like you mentioned, and they don't necessarily have to even know how you know. Now, of course, there are areas where that gets tricky. I don't know if this is but have you heard the story of where Target's data analysts helped them get so good at determining what people were
Pregnant
people were about based on their buying history, and so they sent somebody a bunch of baby stuff when they were pregnant, and I've heard
the father didn't know.
They didn't even know they were pregnant yet. And I've heard that, or they're just freaking out because it's like, why is this all baby stuff? How do they know? And so then later they got to where we'll throw in a little more baby stuff for them, but not enough for them to be like, oh, they know.
Yeah, the father, it was to a young girl, where the father didn't know that she was pregnant, and the girl got quite in trouble. Yeah, that was a little bit, because I think it was even Target or somebody like that sent a gift card for pregnancy, and the father was like, who's pregnant in this house and stuff like that, and it didn't go well. Yeah, this is an old story.
It might be you. Yeah, is there something you need to tell me?
Yeah, it's a bit freaky, right? And I think this is where that campaign, and I think that issue that happened was a bit like the red line, and people were like, oh my god, okay, let's personalize, but let's be careful what we do. And this story, I think, Roy, is quite old now as well, right? It's been a few years.
Oh yeah, it's before ChatGPT, it's before any of this. They just, this was back in the big data, like back when big data was a thing, and they were just, drawing all these insights from the data. What about, so there's some things that obviously AI is not necessarily going to have right, or they're not going to have it the way you want it to be there. It's maybe going to think you want it to go further than it does, or is there some kind of a, do you typically have something in place that, like an approval process where you're going through it all, or obviously that's not quite as scalable.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there needs to be any checks just to make sure that it doesn't say something too crazy or anything like that?
So I think this is where it's a little bit, of course, grayer area at the moment. But if you're really going for a bit crazy personalized and you're saying some stuff that shouldn't be said or is sensitive to other people, of course you do want to double check or triple check even. But also I've seen solutions, and actually we built one as well ourselves, where one AI creates it, one AI double checks it, one AI even checks for anything that could be harmful or sensitive and stuff like that. So because you're separating these GPTs, assistants, whatever you want to call it, or these models or these trained AI models, because you're separating them, you can give them a very, very good job. And they're not more generalists, but they're specialists. And when they get more specialists, you can actually start seeing accuracy of up to 99, right? And even beyond, I've seen 99.8% as well accuracy. And when you're talking about 99.8% accuracy, you're going to get very, very little errors. And then, of course, that's at the end 99.8 accuracy, but you do have also the double check of sensitive information, and you're separating these responsibilities. And then there is a huge, 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 huge chance that you're never going to have a problem. But there might be a little problem. So you still have to make sure that you're careful about, the messaging. But if I send you something about theater and you're like, oh, I don't like theater, I like music, it's not going to be a problem. But, if you go a little bit more on sensitive information, and maybe if it's political or something like that, you might get upset, so you still have to be careful. But we're still talking about very early AI, by the way, today. We're still at, this is the worst AI is going to ever get, right? This is what we say every day.
It is crazy to think about where it's going to go.
Yeah, exactly. And this is, I'll repeat, I am excited, but I'm also not excited about my summer plans, because I know when GPT-5 comes out in the summer, I'm going to be on the computer, even if the sun's shining and everybody's on the beach or whatever. I'm going to be in my computer, because the things we're going to be able to do are mind-blowing.
Maybe by then it'll just be so good that you'll be like, I'm going to the beach, I want you to do this while I'm gone.
That's what we're offering to founders, entrepreneurs today with our company, with our VAs. They're real human VAs, and we train them on these. It still has a fee, of course, but you have someone that is your right hand, your assistant, but that has amazing skills on AI, ChatGPT, prompting, and GPT building, so that you can actually take some more time off. You could be at the beach if you're a founder entrepreneur. You build a great company with an amazing mission, vision, and so on. Take some time off, have an amazing VA.
Could you tell us a little bit more about Task Drive? Because especially as we're talking about some of these areas where maybe it'd be nice to have a human involved, at least at this point of AI. Can you tell us a little bit more about your company and how it works? I think that'd be really interesting to hear.
Our vision, is that we believe that humans are still going to be involved. We're just going to solve bigger problems, and we're going to leave the smaller problems and the smaller, low cognitive work and the mundane tasks to AI. So there's always going to be something for a human to think of or make a decision and so on. And I think that as humans, we're going to evolve to be even smarter, right? Because the technologies are getting smarter, and I don't think it's going to overtake us. And sadly, it's going to overtake a lot of the jobs. Yes, it's going to take over a lot of people who doesn't want to learn, who are not curious, who doesn't have the growth mindset, as we say, and has a fixed mindset. This is very sad. So get a growth mindset today and start learning everything you can, because this is where we're going. And it's very easy to learn today. If you asked me 20 years ago, it was much more difficult, but today you can learn about anything on just YouTube or asking ChatGPT. So at Task Drive, our vision is really that we will continue to have a human controlling these technologies. So today, what we offer is actually how we got here. It's been Task Drive is about close to 9 years now, 9-year-old company, and we started with lead research, and then we went into appointment setting services. So we were an outsourced sales agency. And from there on, we realized last year that, the cold spamming and those emails and things are starting to die down because everybody does it. The volumes are high, the quality is very low, but the quantity is very high. So we took a different approach and we tested with our clients where we actually get our SDRs and so on to start using AI tools and to not go for quantity, but to go for quality and to make sure that the ideal customer profile, it's very, very great targeted. And there's triggers like, I know that they're just hiring for X position, so they are looking for my service, or they're going to look for this product, or they just hired a CMO. The chief marketing officer might want a new marketing automation platform, right? So when you know that, the trigger, the relevancy, it gets better. So when we started to do that, we were like, oh, okay, the response rates are much higher. People want to talk to the SDR, to the person sending the mail or the LinkedIn message and so on, or even the cold calling went better as well. And when we saw that, we're like, oh, okay, there's something. And then my obsession about, of course, ChatGPT last year in 2023 was very, very obvious. So we were like, okay, how can we empower founders and entrepreneurs and our clients, which was mainly sales director, revenue officers, also some founders and entrepreneurs and consultants and coaches. But how can we empower them more? And we realized that we all want to use AI. Most of us, especially in the tech industry, in businesses, in entrepreneurship, and so on. But we potentially don't have even the time to stop, learn it, and then not just learn it, but to test it and to find a great use case for my business, right? And for what I do. So when we realized that, we're like, okay, well, we kept testing with clients and we've seen success in a bunch of sales and marketing tasks. We call them systems now. And it could be from things of repurposing your articles. You have a company and you are creating a blog post every week, right? For SEO purposes, search engine optimization purposes, for Google search and so on. But most content teams and marketing teams, and I do apologize, I come from marketing, we just put it once out there on a blog post, right? And then we just give up on it. And then it's, oh yeah, it's there. Or we just post about it once on LinkedIn and maybe we make a little Instagram or whatever channel we have, or X or whatever. And that's it. And that post is there. So what we realized is that blog post that you actually spend a lot of time on writing, that has maybe 3 to 5 ideas in it, that can be repurposed very simply with a GPT or with a prompt designed for the client. Article, boom, here you go. You got 5, 6, 7, 10, whatever LinkedIn posts ready for your sales team, for your marketing team, for all your team. And we realized that then we could help founders, clients, and everybody else to actually amplify what they're already doing great and to help them distribute it even further. And when we found this out, it was like, oh my God. And today we have clients that makes podcasts, and they're like, well, I want to make the podcast, but I don't want to edit it and then publish it and then put it on YouTube and create the thumbnail and create the whole description and the image, blah, 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 and all that. But we have VAs that can do that for you, right? So you don't have to think about it anymore, and you can do episode a day if you want, because these VAs are trained on the latest and greatest tools. And most of them are AI tools, of course, not just ChatGPT. There are tools like Descript, CapCut. There's so many video editing tools, right? There are some amazing audio editing tools, and with a click of a button, noise is gone. With a click of a button, the background is gone. With a click of a button, you fix the ums, whatever, right? So there is so many great tools out there that maybe you're curious or you're interested, but you don't have the time. But I am very curious, and I have not the time, but I make the time for these things, because we've kind of pivoted our business around it. And we systematize these things and we offer them as systems. And these systems are trained onto your VA, and your VA does, let's say, 5 to 7 systems ongoing.
And is it just a set menu of things that you can have them do, or is it do you have VAs that do all different kinds of things? Are there different levels? I mean, like, is this something where if you liked the ideas that we were talking about earlier in the podcast, I mean, do you have like a a VA who could actually implement something like that?
Absolutely. That's the idea. But we are dedicating VAs, and one VA can be trained on the 5 to 7 systems, and one could be personalizing email campaigns. One could be, editing your podcast and publishing it. One could be about booking webinars for you. One could be, LinkedIn post repurposing. One could be actually creating AI videos. Right, you make an article, you put it, but you could make an amazing AI video very quickly, edit it a little bit, publish it onto your YouTube channel, so that your blog article became also a video on your YouTube channel, right? So we have a strategist that we offer to our clients, and that strategist at the moment is me, because we're testing and we're learning so much. And what we do is we talk about your goals and where you are, and what you wanted to ever do and you didn't have the time that you thought you could do, and so on. And we help you achieve all that stuff. And we create these systems. We have a library of systems already, but also we have some amazing clients that have great ideas, and we're like, oh, we didn't think about that one. We could also do that. And then we create the system. I create the system with my team, train the team, train the trainers, and the trainers then are able to train the VAs. And then the strategist gives you a strategy of a 90-day plan, and it's an iterative plan. Of course, we check it every 2 weeks and keep iterating on it. And that 90-day plan is a strategy with systems and tools, and the frequency of each system. Some are weekly systems, some are daily systems, some are monthly systems. And these systems are consistently executed by your VA. And of course, your VA has the power of AI and different tools.
Yeah, it almost seems like calling them VAs is a little bit selling them short, just because
100%.
I mean, really, it's more like I don't know what I would call it, but when I have had to come up with prompts or anything like that, just to think about the most basic level, that in and of itself is, I mean, you can get some stuff just typing in whatever you want, but there are people who, when they know how to ask for things, what they can get is incredible. And especially when you talk about some of these things where you're kind of adding different things together, it's really that AI expertise, I think, is the biggest selling point. And then the nice thing is that then you also have a human to connect all this back to the real world. So they understand how to use everything, and then they know how to actually make that stuff happen in areas where, at least at this point, ChatGPT and these other tools aren't able to access.
Yeah, and you do want that human to connect with you, because human likes to talk to humans. So some humans don't even want to talk to the robots, if you want to call them, or the AIs and stuff. So you can speak to a human that actually is trained on speaking to the robots, prompting and stuff like that. But I've had a customer say, why are you calling them these VAs? You should call them cyborgs. I was like, yeah, well, that's a bit scary. That's a bit scary. Then it's like the Terminator and stuff. So we kind of call them AI-powered human VAs. And I've had to add the human, because I've had people think that it's not an actual person, and that it was just an AI agent, that was built. And I was like, no, they're AI-powered human VAs. I'm also thinking about AI-equipped virtual assistants. We don't know. We're still testing, because, as you know, this is all brand new to everybody in the world, I think. Even for us, and I think for everybody. So we call them AI-powered human VAs, so that it has the whole thing there. And yes, I think that the human connection is not going to go, and hopefully it doesn't go, because that's what we live for, right? We are social animals, and we're going to continue to be social animals, social beings.
That's very exciting, and I'm excited to see where Task Drive goes. So the website is taskdrive.com. Where else can people find out about you and follow you?
Yeah, absolutely. On LinkedIn, if you write Tim Cakir, Timcakir. I know the last name is a bit more difficult. And if you write that on LinkedIn, I post about it every day. I'm obsessed about the topic. I have a newsletter there as well every week, all free. So we're sharing everything we know for free completely. But the Task Drive has also an incredible LinkedIn page where we have every 2 weeks, I'd say, every 2 weeks on Wednesdays, we have free webinars, free workshops where everybody comes in. I share a screen. I bring guests, very, very incredible people. Like yesterday, I had an amazing guest, and we share everything. We don't hide what we know. We want everybody else to learn. So check out Task Drive's events on LinkedIn. We have a YouTube channel as well, Task Drive. And and if you want message me, DM me on LinkedIn or tim@taskdrive.com.
Okay, that's awesome. So if they liked hearing about this stuff and they would like to get more into it and learn about different areas, it sounds like these events are the way to go. So they need to go to the Task Drive event page, and we'll share a link to that too so that people can find it. Thank you so much, Tim. That was a great episode.
Roy, thank you so much. It's this is our second conversation, and I love it. And hopefully, we'll have more of these. Thank you so much for inviting me.